And boy, let me tell you, I thought I was on a 7-day fast. It just completed. Well, no, I think I still had a day or two to go, and I finished it. When I went to that church, and what I was fighting was a spirit in the pastor's wife and in another preacher's wife. Yes, sir. And you know what? You know how they got that spirit? How they ended up with it? Because of pride. When I drove up on the grounds, I must have talked to about 5 people before I finally got my clothes put away. And they asked me to come there and dedicate a new building that they built, not a church building. It was like Sunday school and everything. And I never heard one person out of the 5 mention God. Look what we did. They built it on peanut brittle. They had a 24-hour factory going, peanut brittle. They had crews going out all in that area. Not a small town. We're talking about a huge area, city. And they had crews going out and selling peanut brittle. UPC peanut brittle is the best peanut brittle you ever ate in your life. And they sold it. And they built that building. And I'm dealing with that mess. I never run into so many spirits in my life in a church. And had I not fasted, had I not had the power, I'd have been in real trouble in that place. Real trouble. Because it was all spirits. Yes, sir. And those spirits came because of pride. Pride. Nothing but pride. Yeah. You allow certain things to happen in your life, and they feel good. And you don't realize that they're leading you in the wrong direction. Yes, sir. And then other people see it. In my mind, I've been thinking about different ones that we've had here in the church. Some that have done marvelously behind the pulpit and whatever. And we could see the pride in them. And I've even sat down with them and said, you're loaded with pride. It's going to kill you. I am not proud. I don't have a proud bone in my body. Well, they're not living for God now. They're off in the boonies. Because they refused to admit they were proud. He said, without me, you can do nothing. Except the Lord build a house, they labor in vain that build it. Except the Lord build a house. Everything in our life should be built by God and not by us. Yeah. Yeah. When we get to feeling like we're doing real great, we're in trouble. It really gripes me when I go someplace and they start in all this lifting me sky high. I'm sitting there saying, God, don't pay any attention to them. You know better than I do how false what they're saying is. Glory. And then must be on the other one. I must have stuck it under. Yeah, I did. Jeremiah 6:19. Hear, O earth, behold, I will bring evil upon this people, even the fruit of their thoughts, because they have not hearkened unto my words, nor to my law, but rejected it. Now, how did they reject it? In their thoughts. Oh, you mean it's not just our actions that God looks at. Not just our actions. Right here. After God taught me how to pray, every time that I bowed my knee. I was in intercessory prayer, in the Spirit, in the throne room, I mean, for hours. And one day I never said a word. I walked from the pastor's parsonage over to the church, and on the way over there, I just thought in my mind, Roger, Molander, you are a prayer warrior. I got in that church, and it was, I don't know how long, a couple of hours before I felt God. I cried, all right. I cried because I couldn't touch him, couldn't feel him. He was in the next county. He wasn't where I was. I didn't say it. I did not say it out loud. I just thought it in my mind. He said, I will bring evil upon this people, even the fruit of their thoughts. He didn't bring evil thoughts. He said, I will bring evil upon this people because of the fruit of their thoughts. Now, he doesn't bring evil thoughts, no. We do. We don't need a devil. If there wasn't a devil, no devil at all, let's say he never existed, we'd have the same amount of problems. Exactly. In fact is, I'm preaching a revival, and I went back to the evangelist quarters after service, and I sat down on the bed, and I said, God, I will never preach again. I'm closing out. I'll never preach again as long as I live. He said, why? I said, because you did not back me up, and I'm only a human being. You didn't back me up at all. I fought the devil all night long, and I never whipped him. And God said, the devil hasn't even been here tonight. He said, you are not fighting demon spirits, you are fighting human spirits. And I said, it sure felt like the devil, acted like the devil. And he said something to me, don't you ever forget it. He said, the spirit of Satan and human spirits are like twins. They are identical. That's why we can so easily be led by the devil. We can be so easily convinced by him that something is a certain way, because our spirit is real quick to say yes to the devil and have to fight to say yes to God. Yeah. Well, glory. John 15:2 says, every branch in me that beareth not fruit, he taketh away. And every branch that beareth fruit, he purges or prunes it, that it may bring forth more fruit. Now ye are clean through the word which I've spoken unto you. Abide in me, and I in you. As the branch cannot bear fruit of itself except it abide in the vine, no more can ye, except ye abide in me. We can't even put forth any good fruit whatsoever unless we're in God and he's in us. I'm the vine, ye are the branches. He that abideth in me and I in him, the same bringeth forth much fruit. For without me you can do nothing. If a man abide not in me, he's cast forth as a branch and is withered. You ever drive up through the San Joaquin Valley, let's say in October, November, I think it's October, November, when they prune? Man, I'm telling you, there's fires going everywhere from the branches that they cut off. And I never saw anything. I'll tell you what, it really disgusted me where I live. They came in there with these cherry pickers that go way up high with a guy standing in them cutting. And all we had was naked trees. I mean, they cut every branch. There wasn't a branch left on a tree. Just naked big trees. And I said, this used to be so beautiful, and it is so ugly. But spring came. In one night, from nothing to branches with leaves on them, green leaves. I said, I don't believe this. I've never seen this before in all my life. And I mean, everywhere we're just watching everything come to life, and buds come out, and then branches and leaves, and it's awesome. Yes, sir. Who's doing it? He's doing it. And we see somebody in the church that maybe hasn't done much, and then all of a sudden they get a hold of God. One service, and they get a hold of one sentence maybe, and it causes them to start allowing God to do the work. And the fruit that comes out of them is just unbelievable. You can't even believe it's the same person you're dealing with. Or all they wanted to do before was go out with you after church and talk. And the Bible is real clear. I won't go. Why? Because in the multitude of words there wanteth not sin. You are going to sin before the night's over if you just keep on talking. And you got to keep on talking, because after all, everybody else is talking, so you got to put your 2 bits worth in there. If a man abide not in me, he's cast forth as a branch that is withered. Men gather them, cast them into the fire, and they're burned. If you abide in me, and my words abide in you, you shall ask what you will, and it shall be done unto you. Herein is my Father glorified, that you bear much fruit. So shall you be my disciples. You know, and it's not just the fruit of the Spirit. It's sinners that you win to God. You bear much fruit. When Roger first came in, within about 3 months, he had his whole family. How many altogether? 17? 30. 30. Now they didn't hang in there and stay there. Everything. Yeah. And how many of you won? How many of you won since you came to God? How much of that kind of fruit have you come up with? Romans 6:20 says, for when ye were the servants of sin, you were free from righteousness. Do you remember those days when you were free from righteousness? In other words, you had no righteousness. There was nothing about you that was righteous. Yeah, it said when you were servants of sin, you were free from righteousness. What fruit had you then in those things whereof you are now ashamed? For the end of those things is death. But now being made free from sin and become servants to God, you have your fruit unto holiness, and the end, everlasting life. Fruit unto holiness. And what have I taught? All the holiness is not long sleeves, long dress, and long face, and all that. It's not. Holiness is our relationship with other people. How we react when we're around other people. For the wages of sin is death, but the gift of God is eternal life through Jesus Christ our Lord. In Ephesians 5:5 says, for this you know that no whoremonger, and that word means 2 things. Either a fornicator, anybody that fornicates is a whoremonger, or a male prostitute. You mean there are male prostitutes? Yes, there are. I met them. Yeah. Nor unclean person, nor covetous man who's an idolater hath any inheritance in the kingdom of Christ and of God. Let no man deceive you with vain words, for because of these things cometh the wrath of God upon the children of disobedience. I don't care who tells you that God's all love and He's going to take care of everything because He's all love. He is not all love. God is love, and if it wasn't for His love, we wouldn't even be here. But He's not all love, and I can tell you, I have had Him blister me good. Yes, sir. I mean, I've had Him really work me over because I was disobedient. Yes, sir. There's two things that God really loves. One's faith, the other's obedience. And there's two things He really, really hates. And that is unbelief and disobedience. And do you know something? In the original Greek, the same word that is translated belief is translated obedience. And the same word that's translated doubt or lack of faith, lack of belief, is disobedience. They can be translated either way. You can either say unbelief or disobedience. And when God said in the Old Testament the same way, it works the same way. Said that they came to Kadesh Barnea. He told them, you go in and I will give you the land. You will conquer every country that's there. And they went, they sent 12 spies in. Spied out the land, they came back, and 2 men were carrying 1 cluster of grapes. Yeah, you talk about a land that flowed with milk and honey, it was there. But they said, well, but we're like grasshoppers in their sight. They're bigger than we are. But God, I don't care if it's bigger. That giant was bigger than David. Yeah. David didn't even think about it. He didn't even have a sword. He just had a sling. But he had God. That's what he had. He didn't care about the sling or anything else. Right. And because one place says, because of their unbelief, they didn't go in. And another place, same word, translated disobedience, because of their disobedience. And that's simple, because when you don't believe, you disobey. When you believe, you obey. That's why it's the same. Yeah. Tells the ladies, it's so clear not to cut their hair. Their hair is their glory. They're not supposed to nip on it, chew on it, burn it off, cut it off, anything else. It's their glory. And yet they cut it. Why? Because I remember I taught on the steps of backsliding, and how in the world I left that off, I don't know. But the first step to backsliding in a woman is to cut her hair. That's the first place that it's manifested. When a woman backslides, she almost invariably grabs the scissors and cuts her hair. There was a preacher's wife. He did the preaching and I did the teaching up in Canada. And his wife was with it. And his wife could stand on her hair. And she was tall. She was at least 5'7", which is tall for a woman. And she could stand on her hair. She had one of the most beautiful head of hair I've ever seen. And someone told me that she backslid, and they said she became a stewardess on an airline, and they saw her, and her hair didn't even come to her shoulders. She had cut it off. She cut her glory off. She cut her power off. She cut her power off. That's exactly right. You don't nip them around here. You just don't. You don't mess with your hair with scissors or burn them or anything else. You say, yeah, but I look so cute when I have these little bangs. I mean, I know because I look in the mirror. You know what you look? Yeah, let me tell you what you look like in the eyes of God. Just like this up here. I mean, you don't have a hair on your head, honey. You're balder than a cue ball. And it says, let no man deceive you with vain words, for because of these things cometh the wrath of God upon the children of disobedience. Be not ye therefore partakers with them. For you were sometimes darkness, but now are ye light in the Lord. Walk as children of light. For the fruit of the Spirit is in all goodness and righteousness and truth. That's one of the most beautiful scriptures. The fruit of the Spirit. When we actually manifest the fruit of the Spirit, we manifest goodness, righteousness, and truth. So I know the pastor tells me I need to pray. All the time he's always talking about prayer. But I just don't feel like praying. Well, don't pray. Go to hell. Be carnal. Just be carnal. Go ahead and be carnal. And if you're going to be carnal, get yourself a television set, because it's miserable being carnal without a television. And somebody is going to say, you know why I got this television? Because the pastor said to. I don't have any doubt in my mind about that. That's exactly the report that I'm going to get. It says, for the fruit of the Spirit is in all goodness, righteousness, and truth, proving what is acceptable unto the Lord. It says, and have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather reprove them. I'm going to tell you something. Who you fellowship with means a whole lot. Brother Leroy Phillips, in this church for years, he used to run the back of the pews. Yeah. Oh, that man loved God. And he had a friend, sinner friend. And I told Leroy, I don't know how many times, I said, get rid of that guy. You've never won him to God. In 5 years, you've not won him to God, but he is slowly winning you to the world. Oh, no. Oh, yes. You see, we see. You know what they called us in the Old Testament? Seers. Seers. Because we see. And I'll tell you something. Sister Molander sees as much as I do. And more. And more. There's times when she sees things I haven't seen. We see them. And you know something? The saints of God see things that no sinner would see. They look at you and they wonder, why are you acting the way you're acting? And they actually, and they're scared to death to judge you, because the Bible says not to. But Paul said in one place, do not we judge? Do not ye judge those that are within? Talking about the saints of God, you better believe you do. You know you do. Because you see things in there that's not good. Saying, have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather reprove them. For it is a shame even to speak of those things which are done in secret. All right, let's get down to the last of this. My goodness, we're going to be through early. Romans 8:12, therefore, brethren, we are debtors not to the flesh, to live after the flesh. For if you live after the flesh, you shall die. But if ye through the Spirit do mortify the deeds of the body, you shall live. For as many as are led by the Spirit of God, they are the sons of God. That means grown-up adult sons. Many as are led by the Spirit of God. Now, there are two ways that you are led by the Spirit of God. One is by reading the book. You know that Richard is the last one to come into church. Isn't that right? In another 3 or 4 months, he will know more about the Bible than some of you that have been here for 20 years. Now that's a shame. You have come up to a certain place and that's where you are, and you're not going any further at all in God because you do not read the book. You figure you're going to get it here. Can you imagine me after 51 years? I sit down and I read the Bible probably 2-3 times a day, and I'll sit down there and I'll read and I'll think, well, I'll be. I don't remember ever seeing that before. Yeah. After 51 years, and I've read the Bible through every year for 12 years in a row, in Spanish and in English. Yeah. Well, I'll be. Can you? And now that I am listening to it, you know how we read when we get in some parts of the Old Testament. We kind of boom, boom, boom. Yeah, right. I'm listening. You can't do that when you got it on CD. When I turn the key on, it comes on in the car, and I'm thinking, well, I'll be. And I sit there yesterday driving along, and I'm listening, and it's about Solomon and his prayers and the 3 times that God came to him and talked to him. And I'm driving down the road just shaking my head. I said, God, this is more than I can believe. You appeared to that man 3 different times. You talked to him face to face. You told him you were going to bless him if he would live for you like David, his father, lived. He was never, ever supposed to have any relations with anything other than a Jewish girl. That's all. He had 600 wives and I think 300 concubines. And concubines were just for sex, that's all. The man must have been something dead wrong with him. And then I'm listening to the list that it gives in the Bible of his wives. They were princesses. Every one of them was a princess, daughter of a king, of the Ammonites, the Moabites, the Canaanites. You just name them, the Egyptians, all the way down the road, all idol worshippers. And then he built an altar for every one of his wives. He built an altar to her god, Baal, Ashtoreth, and all of the Moloch. Every one of them, he built an altar and worshiped with them in that altar. Yeah. Blessed more than any human being had ever been blessed before him or since. J. Paul Getty doesn't have 1/100th of what he had as far as money is concerned. Right. He was the richest man that ever lived, and the Bible said he was the wisest man that ever lived, and he was wise in every single thing but the things of God. He was wise in everything that was natural, and he was a complete idiot when it comes to the things of God, because anybody, after God talks to you, tells you, if you'll do this, I will bless you. If you do this, I will curse you. And because of what he did, God literally destroyed the nation of Israel. Yeah. Sent them everywhere. Scattered them. He had the heathen come in and literally come in and tear down that gorgeous tabernacle that Solomon built. Yes, sir. Unbelievable. Why? He was led away. It said he loved many strange women. he must have been one, something wrong with him upstairs. One's enough. Any man's got more than one wife, he's got real trouble. One's hard to take care of, aren't they? Yeah. Well, glory.
Bless the Lord.
I think you've had enough for the day, of teaching. Well, I wish he could find a shorter one. David, did you find a shorter one than this? I wouldn't mind if it was clear back here. And it's all yours, man.
Let's stand and stretch. Ask the song leaders, please come up. Just give us a second while Sister Minnie gets the song.